Happy Football Friday, everybody, here on the Southside Beat. My name is Chris Halicke, and not joining me today is the ill Corey Christen. Corey is not feeling well. He's actually feeling worse than he did yesterday. So Corey out today. Camera not set up. There we go. That's better. Corey's out today. He's not feeling great. Voice is even worse than it was yesterday, apparently. Just doesn't feel good. So don't want to force him to do anything. When you're sick, don't feel well. So yeah, Swan 269. It's a nice. It's a DK 2-minute late start, a couple minutes behind. I was actually having some technical difficulties for whatever reason. My camera didn't want to connect, and then all of a sudden my microphone didn't want to connect. So I was going to be going off of the crappy computer camera and the crappy headphone microphone, and I don't want to do that. I want to have, a better camera and better microphone. And yeah, you guys are even coming up for nicknames with Corey whenever he's not here. Brad says low health Corey. You guys, man. Oh, man. Well, it is a Football Friday, and with Corey out today, you guys can be the co-host for me. Hey, your favorite bar, good quality, Chris. Yeah, that's what I'm always striving for, is for good quality. I don't have the sunshine today. Cold front came through here in North Texas. It is currently 48 degrees outside, overcast skies, bit of wind, so it actually feels a little bit like winter here. A little bit, not completely. Obviously winter, you need it to be about 20 degrees cooler at least, but still, you get cool enough. Hoodie weather, But yeah, so Football Friday. We're going to talk, obviously, Steelers-Ravens, because as the title of the show says, it all comes down to this, man. All comes down to this game. Well, not completely. Kind of. Steelers need to win, but they also need a little bit of help. But ultimately, Steelers need to win. There's one or two different avenues. Barber says 34 degrees in the 412. Yeah. Pretty close, obviously. Both above freezing. Cooler weather. I know some bad weather is going to be coming that way, though, northeast. So I think we're avoiding the bad weather here. Typically here, the bad weather doesn't come until like this month or February. And typically what we get in North Texas is ice storms. Every now and then we'll get an actual snowstorm. And when I say snowstorm, I mean like 3 or 4 inches. Still, I cannot forget and will never forget back-to-back winters here of 1 foot snowfalls, like back-to-back winters. And one of those was actually during the week of the Super Bowl when the Steelers were playing the Packers here. That was fun. That was a fun week. Not driving to work that week. I lived 35 miles away from my job at that time. That sucked because North Texas doesn't treat roads the way they do in the Northeast whenever it snows. They don't even use salt. They use sand. I mean, what sense that makes. Anyway, Football Friday. Steelers-Ravens. Big game. Steelers need to win. Only 2 possibilities that they make it. If they don't win, you just they best take care of your own business and then hope that one of 3 things happens. See, Mark asked, do you believe in magic? Scoring 30 points per game, splash defense, and running game. Does this spell a Nick Foles run? I might need to see what the Steelers do against the Ravens before I do that. Even a Ravens team that's not playing several of their key guys, obviously Lamar Jackson being out, but Zay Flowers being out, Kyle Hamilton being out. I'm trying to remember everybody else who's out. My short-term memory sucks. Let me pull that up real quick to see who all's out for the Ravens. Out: Odell Beckham Jr., Malik Harrison, Marlon Humphrey, Darryl Worley, and Kevin Zeitler. Zay Flowers is doubtful. He's not out. He's doubtful, but still, Zay Flowers being doubtful, that's pretty much out. Kyle Hamilton's questionable, not out, but still, even if he doesn't play like that, that's a big loss for the. And really, if you're John Harbaugh, is it worth it? Like, is it truly worth playing your best safety in a game in which you've already got the number 1 seed wrapped up. Because if you lose him for the playoffs, that hurts the back end of your defense. Swan, I'm not falling for that one, man. But yeah, so it's still a massive game. It's still going to be a difficult game. The Ravens are a great team, but I do have a bit of a strategy for the Steelers. Not that I'm like a coach or should be giving opinions or anything like that on that. I'm highly unqualified for that, but yeah, it's there's a way that they can win. There is a way that they can win. Obviously, it's an AFC North game, but there's an actual X's and O's strategy to what can happen for the Steelers to actually pull this off. And then hopefully one of the two things happens when it comes to, when it comes to actually trying to make the playoffs. Robert says, salt is bad for cars in the long run. It is. Actually, when I first went up to Pittsburgh, when we were trying to make the move there, when I got my when I got up there, I got my first oil change. Apparently, there's a treatment that you can get to like the bottoms of your cars that at least helps with that. But yeah, salt is definitely not good for your cars. But when you're trying to get through winter weather, you're trying to drive through winter weather, man, it is a pain. It's a huge pain if you're not using salt. Sand does almost nothing. I don't even know why they lay it down. It's not good. And when the polar vortex thing happened back in like 2014, 2013, whenever that was, we had some seriously icy weather here. Like frigid temperatures and icy weather. Some of the bridges you would have that like cobblestone ice like over the bridges. So you're trying to drive over and it's just like you're just bouncing all over the place. It was terrible. Yeah, it was not. I would have much rather dealt with trying to get pay the dollar and get the expensive treatment just so I know that I can drive a little safer whenever winter weather. But I understand why they don't do it. Yeah, Matt H says, yeah, it was the Dallas Super Bowl year. It was also the year before. So the year before they had a 1 foot snowfall, which was like crazy. Because then I've lived in this area for 23 years. It's happened twice. That was the first year it happened, and the very next year, that week leading up to the Super Bowl, that's when it happened. So it was crazy. Yeah, Chris, she says 3 years ago, we had that freeze in Texas. Everything shut down. Pipes were bursting. It was bad. Yep, that was when I don't know if anybody knows anything about ERCOT. It's the independent grid that Texas relies on. It's terrible in the summer and it's terrible in the winter. They tell you to keep your AC a little bit higher in the summer, which it's summer in Texas. You can, since we're talking about salt, you can pound salt. I'm not turning down my AC in the summertime whenever it's 100 degrees every day. And then they weren't prepared for the heat. Or they weren't prepared for the cold, the like frigid cold. And so they were like they were actually doing rolling blackouts so that, the power grid wouldn't get too overwhelmed. So the firewood was all firewood ran out at stores. It was like COVID, but worse. Whenever like grocery stores were just completely ransacked from a lot of stuff. It was bad. Fortunately for me, I did not endure any rolling blackouts because I'm on the same like grid or whatever it is as a hospital. I'm like literally 2 minutes away from a hospital. So my power never went out because they can't turn that one off, because if you turn that one off, then you turn off the grid for the hospital, which you just can't do. So, let's see. Darren asks, hey, Chris, this will be the last regular season game for the Steelers on Saturday. For which Steelers on Saturday? I don't know what you mean by that. Like, for which Steelers? I don't know. I don't know. If you can kind of elaborate on that a little bit. If you're talking about like the way that they're playing under Mason Rudolph or the way that they were playing before, I'm not quite sure. I don't want to be able to answer your question. For which players? Who is? Oh, okay. There we go. Who is out of contract? Who's not coming back? Honestly, don't know. Perhaps Mitch Trubisky. He's still under contract, but shoot, with the way he played and with the way Mason Rudolph's playing, with the way they're not going to give up on Kenny Pickett. Like they're not just going to just discard him. Like okay, bye, see you later. We don't need you anymore. So that's two quarterbacks that you probably trust a lot more. So yeah, I would think I think Mitch is probably gone. Allen Robinson probably gone, not because he's necessarily a bad player per se, but that's an easy $10 million in cap savings right away. So that's an easy one. Chooks is a possibility. Dan Moore's a possibility. I would say Chooks before Dan Moore. Dan Moore is in much more favor with the coaching staff in the front office than Chooks is. Yeah, I would think. I mean, Mason Rudolph could be gone too because he's a free agent. Now, obviously, the Steelers, might try to, pay up a little bit more and give him a better contract and say, hey, we want you to stick around and shoot, man. You play good enough, you get us into the playoffs, or you even win us a playoff game or two. We might even go as far as to say you've got a leg up on potentially starting next year. Obviously, that all depends. If they win this game and still don't make the playoffs, then maybe it's a little bit more 50-50. Maybe they lean a little bit more closer to Kenny since he's the rookie contract quarterback. I don't know. It just depends. Yeah, I mean, Robert brings this one up too. I mean, Cam is taking time about next year. I mean, he's getting up there, man. I would like to see Cam Heyward come back for one more season. I think he could play. I don't think you need to rely on him to be like Cam Heyward, but in terms of you limit his snaps and his impact in that kind of a role, I would think that would be good. So I would hope that the Cam comes back for another season. I think he should. And yeah, I mean, I don't care who reports what, but yeah, Cam Heyward would have to take a pay cut. That's just how the cap works. I mean, you can't pay that kind of money for a guy who doesn't play a full blown workload as a starter or something like that. You just can't do that. He would have to take a pay cut. I think he would kind of know that too. Like it's a salary cap league. You can't, you have to be smart about how you allocate your resources. So, I did see something up here. I forgot to star it. I don't know. I can't find it. There's somebody to ask about the X's and O's, so I'll just go ahead and get into that. Yeah. So X's and O's for this game. Listen, the Steelers are they're running the ball well, obviously, and that is still the best way to go when it comes to trying to win this game. They got to try to run the football. And I know you might be thinking, oh, well, it's the Ravens. They do a good job of stopping the run, both historically against the Steelers and just in general. The Ravens typically have a good run defense. And if you go and look on Pro Football Reference, the Ravens are ranked 13th against the run, in the run. So, doesn't seem to be the easiest thing. You're not lining up against the 27th ranked rush defense like it was with the Seahawks, or against a really bad Bengals defense like it was the week before that. But there are a couple of things there when it comes to, the Ravens. First off, they are allowing 4.5 yards per carry on the season overall. That's not a good mark. Only 5 teams have a worse mark than that. So they are one of the worst in the league in terms of yards per carry allowed. So you should have the opportunity, if you're the Steelers, to run the football. You should have the opportunity to do it. They did it last year in Baltimore. Najee Harris had one of his best games running the football last year in that same stadium around this time of year. So they need to be trying to run the football. But here's the thing, and they can actually put the Seahawks in the same conundrum, or put the Ravens in the same conundrum as the Seahawks were in last week. The Ravens, when they don't load the box, or I guess when they're playing with a light box, are giving up 5.7 yards per carry. That is massive. So if they don't load the box, they're giving up yards per carry. When they load the box, they're doing a much, much better job at stopping the run, which that makes sense because you're loading the box. But when they don't load the box, they're giving up yards. They're giving up chunks on the ground. And so now you kind of, with what the Steelers are doing with Mason Rudolph, having success with these intermediate and deep throws, you can put the Ravens in a similar conundrum. You can try to load the box and stop the run, but you do that, you open yourselves up to getting hit deep with the intermediate and deep throws. And if that happens, then the Ravens are going to have to back off, and then they have a lighter box, and now all of a sudden they're susceptible to have done to them what they've been allowing all season, which is getting gashed on the ground. And this is a running offense that, regardless of who they're playing, just ran for 202 yards last week and ran for, I don't remember the exact number, I think it was like 150 or something like that against the Bengals. This is a running offense that is clicking on all cylinders right now. So it really is kind of a pick your poison situation if the Steelers can execute it that way. It's going to be really, really big to see what happens on that first drive. How are the Ravens coming out to defend this offense? Are they loading the box right away? Are they saying you are not going to run the football on us? If that's the case, take your shots. Make that defense back off. Hit them with the intermediate throws. Hit them with the deep throws, especially since the Ravens like to run out of cover zero quite a bit. Kenny made them pay for that, in the game earlier this season. That should help. And Brian says, that these past few games, Mason Rudolph allows us to be balanced. I think last game when they played each other, yes, the Steelers won. But let's not, rewrite history here. The Ravens lost that game more than the Steelers won. The Ravens receivers dropped critical passes, several critical passes, a couple of them for touchdowns. That game would not have been close if they catch half of those passes. Kadarius Toney level drops, like bad drops. And credit to Kenny Pickett and credit to George Pickens and to the offense, but for having that play where you had a built-in check. Something that they worked on in practice, where if they showed zero, call that go route. They ran it. Kenny threw a good ball. George ran under it, caught it, touchdown. Late in the game, ball game, you win. Have more stuff like that built in, especially when you have like a running play with a built-in check or a passing play with a built-in check to go, to a run or something like that, because this is the reason why, is because the Ravens are a team that can be gashed on the ground. They can be. So it's, how do the Steelers go about doing that? Do they get really predictable and just line up in 12 personnel and 13 personnel and line up under center and say, hey, we're running the football, and just dare the Ravens to try to stop them? Or do they try to mix things up, get a little bit more complicated, have some plays with some built-in checks to try to, okay, you guys are going to load up the box here. Great. We're going to check out of this. Now, George, go run that go route. So yeah, that's the way to do it in this game. If you're gonna score points, and you have to score points, because even with Lamar Jackson out, even if Zay Flowers doesn't play, this Ravens offense can move the ball. Tyler Huntley's a more than capable quarterback. Williams says, yeah, we should have 12 wins already. I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that. I promise. Because we'll get into playoff scenarios and everything like that, and that's when you're going to look back at the Cardinals and Patriots games and be like, this shouldn't even matter. This weekend shouldn't even matter, and it shouldn't. Let's just be honest. Unless you were playing for the division title, but still. Okay, there's still Kenny and Mason debates in the comments, man. I'm not getting into Kenny versus Mason. I'm just not doing it. I've done it enough. I've talked enough about it. I'm not getting into it anymore. I'm just talking about, we know that Mason Rudolph's going to be the quarterback, and in this game, like, that's what we know. That's what we're going off of. That's what I'm going off of. So debate away if you want to. I'm not talking about it on here because it gets volatile and even nasty really, really quickly. I'm not doing it. I got direct emails from Kenny fans, like from in my last Chalk Talk piece, in which I wasn't even insulting Kenny, wasn't questioning his character like some other people did. Just talking about how the offense maybe wasn't clicking under him. And it definitely was not all of his fault. You would never put that all on one player. So yeah, I think that's the way to do it, though. That's the way to do it. If you guys have any other questions, please drop them into the comments. There was a question earlier that I meant to star and I didn't do it, and now I can't find it. It was way early. It was like near the beginning of the show. But yeah, shout out to Corey though. Hope he feels better. Definitely, miss having him. Hope he still gets to go to Baltimore. It's not that it's a destination city for me. Actually, I did enjoy Baltimore whenever I went there to go cover a Pirates Orioles series last year. That was was it last year? Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, not last year. The year before, in 2022. I had always wanted to go to that ballpark. That was kind of a check off the bucket list there for me. Certain ballparks I've always wanted to go to. Fenway was one. Got to do that 9 years ago now. And then got to do Camden Yards. Whenever I covered that series, Wrigley's still on my list. Somehow I've still not made it to Wrigley. Need to. Oh man, you guys are all Mason and Kenny. Let's talk about something else, guys. It's Steelers Ravens, man. It's Steelers Ravens. That should be the conversation. Steelers Ravens. I mean, we're wow. I mean, let's keep our eye on the ball, guys. Like for real. Oh, let's see. Christopher says, "Hey, Chris, if the Steelers make the playoffs, is there any team that scares you?" Yeah, pretty much all of them. The Ravens obviously scare me. Especially when they're at full strength. I don't care what fans say about, the Steelers have always played Lamar Jackson well. He sure looked dang good earlier this year. And like I said, they win that game if Ravens receivers don't drop a bunch of passes. The Ravens scare me. I understand the Chiefs have looked very, very not super, they don't look like the super team anymore. Travis Kelce's aging all of a sudden. Patrick Mahomes, believe me, I know Patrick Mahomes has not been great this year. He was on my fantasy team, and I hate that. But it's still the situation like it's the playoffs. I can't just automatically assume that because Patrick Mahomes is bad, or I don't say bad, was underwhelming during the regular season, that he's going to be underwhelming during the playoffs. I just can't assume that. Miami scares me just because at a moment's notice, they could just drop a 50 bomb on anybody. So a few different teams kind of scare me. Everybody else I think is pretty beatable. If the Steelers go in, let's pull up the standings right now. I don't want the NFL app. The NFL app sucks. Let's see. Playoffs. Let's see. So if the 2 seed ends up being Miami, which I think if the Steelers make the playoffs, Miami would have to win because they play Buffalo. They need Buffalo to lose. Steelers need Buffalo to lose. Or that's one of the scenarios. Probably the most likely scenario for the Steelers. They would be the 2 seed. So then you're looking at playing Miami in the first round, in the wild card round, in Miami. That's not easy. That's not easy. I would think, based off of the circumstances, I would call this a successful season based off of the circumstances, if they can make the playoffs and win a wild card game, like for real. B-Phil says the Steelers are not elite, but they can play dangerous. They can. I mean, they are right now. They've also played, a bad Bengals team that was playing pretty well. Let's not take that away. Let's not, completely, take it away that the Bengals are playing really well and we're even in a playoff spot there for a little while. Yeah. And then the Seahawks are, they're I think they're still in as like the number 7 seed in the NFC. So I think if they win, they're in. But Mark asks over 2 under. TJ gets 2.5 sacks. I don't know, man. 2.5 is quite a bit. I would say under. I say gets 2. I mean 2.5. I mean, you're talking about you have to have 3 to get the over. I don't know. I don't think I'd bet. I don't think I'd bet the over there. Who spies Huntley? Probably one of the inside linebacker or off-ball linebackers. That's what that's typically what who that would be. Regardless of that's just the easiest position to have it happen. Landon Roberts maybe. You're not having to drop him back in coverage too much, and he can just kind of follow Huntley around, make sure that he doesn't take off too early. Let's see. Let's go through more. How do you think the Ravens will game plan this? On defense, I really don't know. Like I said, it's kind of a conundrum for them. Do they load the box and make the Steelers throw it deep? Or do they lighten the box and, even though they have been bad against the run when they lighten the box, pretty much just challenge their guys up front to stop it anyway? On defense, I really don't know. I'm very, very curious to see how that plays out. On offense, it's going to be very simple for them. Run the same system you've been running all season long. Just do it with Tyler Huntley at quarterback instead of Lamar Jackson. To me, it's that simple. Let's see. Swan 269 asks, okay, here we go. This is the question from earlier. How do you think all the relevant games turn out, Jags and Bills? I'll get to that whenever I make my prediction, which actually is coming up here in a few minutes anyway. So yeah, I'll get to that. I'll answer that for you. That's Biet says the Steelers play Huntley far better than they play Lamar. Both of them can hurt them though. Like Huntley's numbers, like you look at it, aren't great, but Huntley also has really good running numbers against the Steelers. He's averaging like 4.5 yards a carry. So he can still hurt you for sure. He will execute what the Ravens system, just not at as high of a level as Lamar does. It's just it's the best way that I can describe it. And I think that's a really good thing for the Ravens to have, because you have to have a unique offense built around what Lamar Jackson does well, because he is a unique quarterback. Yes, he's a mobile quarterback, and yes, he can run, but man, he can throw the ball too. You have to have a certain system built around his strengths. And the great thing is that you have a backup that can come in and play in the same system where you don't have to dumb down the playbook. That's a valuable thing to have for sure. Even if he doesn't execute at as high of a level, it's still a good thing to have. Chris G says Ravens are different this year. That new offense is scary. I agree. My next opponent piece is going to be coming out later this afternoon. I've got more detail on that there. That offense is scary. Just because Tyler Huntley is a quarterback doesn't mean the Ravens aren't going to score. I could easily see a scenario in which the Ravens put up 20 to 30 points in this game. Easily. This is a very, very dangerous offense. If they don't have Zay Flowers, that's a blow. Odell Beckham Jr. being out, that's a blow. That takes away, 2 playmakers. Isaiah Likely still looked very, very good in place of Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman's a good deep threat. They got guys who can play. And they added Dalvin Cook to the mix at running back. And let's not pretend like just because Lamar Jackson had over 800 yards rushing that the Ravens running backs aren't phenomenal. The trio of that they got at running back is combined for over 1,500 yards rushing in the season. They run the ball better than anybody in the league. And they also have the highest yards per attempt passing the ball. So it's a great offense. It really, really is. They look different this year. To me, going into the playoffs, as of right now, they are my Super Bowl favorite. I haven't made an official prediction yet, but they're my favorite right now. R2 Malvo says JPJ needs to keep his hands to himself this week. Listen, okay. One really quick thing about Joey Porter Jr. You knew this coming out of college that he was handsy. Like it was in the scouting report. We kind of knew that. And that's not atypical of one, a young cornerback, but also 2, a shutdown cornerback. They will flirt with the line as often as they possibly can to gain an advantage because they're always going up against the best receiver, on the other side of the ball. It's kind of like the same thing that, fans were frustrated over whenever when Ben Roethlisberger was a young quarterback. Sometimes the plays that he'd make it just drive you crazy, drive you mad. Like, what are you doing? But the good outweighed the bad. And it's the same thing with Joey Porter Jr., man. He will have first off, he doesn't get thrown at that often because he's shutting down his guys so much. And when he does get thrown at, he's doing a great job of not allowing there to be a lot of production. You kind of just take the penalties along with it, especially for him being a rookie. If he were a 6 or 7 year vet and he's getting that many flags, okay, I could understand being a little frustrated about it. He's a rookie. It's going to come with the territory a little bit. Let's let the guy kind of grow into that a little bit. Yeah, Teresa says not thrilled about Miami's offense. I'm not either. That offense is also dangerous. Let's see. Let's keep going through that. R2 says he's mid. He is not mid. Sorry, Joey Porter Jr. is not mid. We can agree to disagree on that one. That's fine. Everybody's got their opinions. Yeah, I think he's going to turn into probably one of the top 5 shutdown based off of what I've seen. One of the top 5 shutdown corners in this league by the end of next year, if he's not already kind of flirting with that line. It's just there. I mean, the numbers are there. The tackling thing, I'll give you that. The tackling thing has got to be fixed. He's got to become a better tackler. I would go with that. That's the part of his game that he needs to work on even more than the flags. Oh yeah, Steeler girl, I'm going to be coming. I'm going to be coming with the prediction here in a second. I just don't want to miss any more questions. Pittsburgh Toddy 86. If the Steelers make the playoffs, why bench Mason? I would not. You ride Mason until it doesn't work anymore. That's where you're at now. This is the biggest game of the year right now. You have to win, and you're going with Mason Rudolph with a healthy Kenny Pickett. That's the decision the Steelers have made. You don't bench Mason at this point. So let's see here. Chris G says I'll take one flag a game for how he's been shutting down receivers. Yep, that's the way it goes. That's just the way you do it. You again, it's just one of the. It's like I said, it's the same thing that you kind of that you just kind of you just kind of deal with it. Again, it's like the same thing when Ben Roethlisberger was a young quarterback. He would make certain throws that would just make everybody want to pound their head into a wall. And then for the same type of play that he would do, he would have 3 great plays. It's just the good far outweighed the bad. And again, it's just part of it. All right. 5 minutes past normal time. Well, 3 minutes past whenever we started because we were a couple minutes late getting started today. Thanks a lot, Camera and Mike. But prediction time. Corey gave me his. I will actually read his so that we can have Corey's official. This is what he says. With so many Ravens likely to sit, this should be a win for the Steelers. I fear the outside and scenarios with respect to their postseason chances, though. Corey says Steelers win. I was reading Ravens as I said it. Steelers win 24-13. That's what Corey says. My prediction. I think the Steelers are going to continue to do what they've been doing well on offense, and that is run the football and find ways to also stretch the defense. That's what I would do. Pretty much what they did against the Seahawks, do it again. You probably won't score as many points because the Ravens have a better defense than the Seahawks do, and the Ravens will be a little bit more prepared for that because they will have, obviously, film off of what the Steelers did against the Seahawks. So I don't think they're going to score 30-plus points in this game, but I do think the offense is going to score enough points. And playmakers being missed, like sitting out on the Ravens offensive side, that is going to impact the way the Ravens can obviously score points. I am going to just go ahead and say, now, granted, we got, Corey said 24-13. I'm going to continue to go with the precedent that Steelers-Ravens games are decided by 3 points or less. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Steelers win this game. And Brent actually took the words right out of my mouth, 23-20. That's what I'm going to say. Steelers win 23-20. Whether it comes off of last-second field goal, however that happens, I say 23-20 Steelers. And to also kind of throw that into another realm, how the other games are going to play out. The Bills and Dolphins. Buffalo is favored by 2.5. I'm going to say the Dolphins end up winning that game at home. They win the AFC East. They've been the best team in that division all season long. They're not going to lose that at the last second. I'm going to say the Dolphins win the AFC East, and the Steelers, with a win over the Ravens, clinch a playoff berth. I'm being optimistic. What the heck? Let's just go with that. So that's my prediction. Hopefully it comes true so that whenever we talk next week, we can be talking about football still. Actual football that is to be played, and we're not having to already turn the page to 2024. I would like to be able to at least extend this for another week. So maybe that's the reason why I would like that to happen. But thank you guys, everybody, for joining, for having the conversation today. I appreciate you guys. Again, like, this has been, it's been no matter what happens, whether the Steelers win or lose, or if they win and don't make the playoffs, this season has been phenomenal for this show. We're still, just think about it. We're still only a few months into this, still kind of getting up off the ground. Anything you guys do for us, every time you like something, anytime if you've subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, but anybody who has, if you've shared this video somewhere, shared our show somewhere, we really, really appreciate it. It's been a great season. It really has. It's been a heck of a season. It's been a crazy season. It's been an interesting season, to say the least. It's definitely not gone the way that we expected, for sure. I think, I predicted the Steelers would go 11-6. I also said that there would be a team that would finish 10-7 that would not make the playoffs, and that could very well happen. The Steelers could win, the Bills could win, the Jaguars could win, and Steelers don't make it. It's just very, very possible. Then also the Steelers could win, the Bills could lose, and the Bills were the 10-17 that didn't make it. So, it's been a crazy season, but we really appreciate you guys tuning in, watching as often as you do, joining. We have regulars who are in here every single day. Teresa actually asked a really good question as we wrap this up. Are you guys doing pods during the off season? Absolutely. Yes, we are. We're not stopping the show. We're going to keep talking. Obviously, as we get through the off season, we're going to have to, certain times of the off season, it's easy to talk about certain things because, there are different events going on. Obviously, if the Steelers don't make the playoffs, or when they're eliminated, or whenever the season's over, we will have plenty of, topics to go over in terms of reaction to the season and stuff like that. And then obviously you got Senior Bowl week, you've got the combine, you got the draft. There's, a bunch of different things that go on during the off season. Then obviously once football activity starts again, OTAs, mini camp, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're back in Latrobe at St. Vincent College, and it's training camp again. So, Don, appreciate the compliment. So we would go crazy without you guys. Appreciate it. We're going to be talking Steelers every single day. The only days we're not talking is your regular holidays and stuff like that. So no, we're talking, man. We're talking. Mike in Texas. Oh, we're gonna have to have conversations about OC, man. He says we get to welcome in Byron Leff, which is new OC. Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of debates about who the next offensive coordinator should be. And we know, what, we might not even have time to debate that. Who knows? Like, the Steelers could end up getting eliminated or whatever, however that happens, and then 2 days later they hire an offensive coordinator. Not going to happen. This should not happen. I'm just saying, we might not have that much time to even debate it. So anyway, and have questions like what Dave asks. Will Mason be QB1 in 2024? Don't know. We get to talk about that stuff in the offseason. So for right now, I'm going to sign off. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Try to enjoy the game tomorrow. Enjoy football this weekend. Hopefully for you guys, the Steelers end up winning. And if they win, enjoy football on Sunday. Try not to sweat too much. And then hopefully when we talk on Monday, we're talking about the Steelers playing the Dolphins or whoever else, if they even get a 6 seed, which I think is possible, or whoever they're playing. We're talking about a playoff game next week. If not, we will talk Monday regardless. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. To quote Michael Scott, I'll catch you guys on the flippity flip.